this opportunity to welcome everybody to our podcasts. My name is Spez Martins Eze, popularly called Martins Spez, Mr. S to the P to the E to the Z. And with me on the panel today, we have
Frank Akodinanwa, best known with Magic.
Magic.
Yeah.
Okay, you are the magic man.
Of course.
You're welcome to our podcast. And we have Ariel.
Yeah, so my name is Ariel Chukwudi, aka King J.
King J. I like that. So today we are going to be looking at some burning issues in Nigerian society today, and on top of the list is the protests. And I just want us to look at these protests from a very critical perspective. What does this protest intend to achieve? Does it actually work? In Nigerian society today, looking at protests, would you comfortably say that protest actually works in Nigeria? You can do justice to that question.
Well, thank you very much for throwing that question at me. When it comes to protests, it's not about Nigeria. We have other countries that protest. And but when it's been narrowed down to that of Nigeria, we have this thing about Nigeria. You see people trying to hijack, trying to do a lot of things. You see anti-protesters hired by the government, of the people, for the people, and by the people. And at the finest run, you'd also find out that they end up messing the whole thing up. Protests, yes, can work in Nigeria if and only if we have what we call a common agenda. What are we protesting about? What do we want to achieve with the protest? If we have this, I think, yes, it should work in Nigeria.
But the people said they are protesting against bad government, and they say end hardship. Are you saying that it's not narrowed enough to say we are demanding for hardship to end in Nigeria?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the agendas of the protests. You don't have many agendas. You can just pick one or two, hit the nail on its head, and everything will be solved. You can't have more than, you can't be telling us to end bad governance. You can't be saying and reverse fuel to 300 and 400 and 400 and something, which you know is not possible. You can't be saying a lot of things at the same time. When everybody's talking, nobody's talking. But if you speak in one voice, for instance, you say, this is what we want of the government. Then with that, for instance, let me cite an instance. Now, take a look at what is happening in Kano, Sokoto, as we speak. These are not protesters. These are looters, people that are just seeking for the slightest of opportunities to loot other people's properties, maim them, and the rest of them. But if we have a common agenda in this protest, I think we should be able to tackle this thing. We don't even need to go with day 1 to day 10.
Do you actually believe that protests work?
Yes, protest works, but if and only if, just like I said earlier, if and only if we have a common goal and a common agenda.
Just like NSAS that just ended, we've had NSAS and we know how it ended. Would you, in your own assessment, say that NSAS worked?
Yes, I would totally agree, though not 100%, but at least, because we know there are certain things that I know that happened that I would say that, yes, I would agree totally, not totally anyways, that NSAS worked. Number one is we have a notorious station that would always go about some doctors, in quotes, some doctors that would come about buying off people's body parts and the rest of them. Now, during the NSAS protests, we had a common goal. End SARS. Put an end to SARS now. Yes, even if they disbanded them, it was just a change of name, and then they named it Sparks. But I would want to tell you
Nigerian
this. I would
system.
want to tell you this that yes, it ended because their operation now is different from that of
The old
the
SARS.
old SARS. Though with their normal, I've never seen someone go on rampage, police go on rampage without being on their full uniform with names and tags. But you see people, all you just see is sparks. There is no name, there's no tag number.
So what you're saying in essence is that some um, controlled actions of some of those agents have been curtailed. Some excesses from some of those agents who are members of the SARS, because of that protest, some of those excesses have been curtailed. But we still know that today, police brutality is still happening in Nigerian society and all that. But we can say that at least it reduced to a certain extent. Though we are not talking about NSAS today. I want to come to you, Ariel. Do you believe that actually protest works?
Of course, protest works, but the protest in Nigeria right now will never work.
So you're agreeing with him that protest works?
The word protest, there's a reason for that. It's a word, protest,
Okay.
to achieve a result or put an end to something. So it cuts across cultures, religion, color, race, and all. Protest is for to achieve something. But when we're talking about protest as it concerns the Nigerians in general, it won't work.
So why do you think it won't work?
There's a bedrock on which you stand to achieve something. And looking at what we have in Nigeria, I find that there's a high level of disagreeability amongst the people who are protesting for a cause. Now, protest has begun since Nigeria since the 60s. Well, we can check our records and confirm this. Why are all these protests not giving us the result that we are looking for? Why? What is the cause? Agreeability. It's always okay. Now, what is the reason why let's just use the last protest that we had, NSAS. Why didn't it give us the maximum result that we looked for? Because at some point people brought in tribal war into it. It distorted.
That's the political game of the politicians.
Yes, now agreeability is used on the people to achieve an aim. If people are agreeable, the politicians can do much. If the people are agreeable, the politicians will not be able to penetrate them. But the politicians know that from day one, they're not agreeable. It's just that right now, emotionally, they are angered and raged to stop this thing. But over time, they can cite in that, and they remember, oh, it's true, and it becomes an obstruction to the vision and the goal where they're driving at immediately. But if they have this agreeable mindset from day one, what brings about agreeability? Now, that's another question. And looking at what we have now, a region of the country, the southeast, is not part of the protest. Why? Because at the end of the day, they are the victims all the time. They are always the victim. The blame game goes back to them. Anything goes wrong is the East, is the Igbos. Everything. We are the Igbo voices. They have been maimed and silenced. The Igbos have said, okay, we have tried to push this thing. We have tried to bring our voice to build a nation that works for everybody. But see where we are. We have been neglected, marginalized, maimed, insulted, accused for different things, even killed. So therefore, go and try. Let's see if we are the problem. We are agreeing now we are the problem of the country. Okay, we have withdrawn. But you people that have the solution to the problem, we will go. Solve the problem for us, we will accept.
Are you saying this because you're an Igbo?
No.
Or...
I'm saying it because I understand how the human minds work and how to achieve a common goal. And when it comes to achieving anything, a Muslim man, a Buddhist, and a Christian can live in one flat and live harmoniously if they're agreeable and have one common understanding. We are humans.
So what do you think can be done to create that agreeability?
Now, good. Every human being have their strengths and weaknesses. Now, just like the human parts, every body part have its function. right? If we say that we are one country and there's the east, the west, the north, and the south, all these regions have their strengths and they have their weaknesses, just like the human body. So what is the strength of the Igbos? Their driving spirits, their ingenuity, their strength. You can't do without it in a movement that requires tenacity. You can't. If you try, you won't work. There are people that has it from day one. So if they're not in the picture of the program, if they are not brought into the movement, I sorry to say, but you won't get the results you're looking for. And for these things to be breached and for the result to be achieved, the people who have maimed, insulted the Igbos should come up firstly and apologize to the Igbos and acknowledge their presence in the affairs of the nation. Acknowledge their presence. What is the strength of an Igbo man? What is the strength of a Yoruba man? What is the strength of an Hausa man? How do we come together with our strengths and create a force that can not be disputed? That is how we can move forward. Else, we'll keep going around a circle till we enter into a black hole.
So what you're saying in essence is that we should be able to identify our strengths in diversity.
Yes.
The Hausa man should be able to know this is what he has that the Igbo man does not have.
Yes.
The Igbo man should be able to know that this is what he has that the Yoruba man does not have.
Yes.
And the Yoruba man should be able to recognize that the Igbo man has that thing that he doesn't have and he needs it. And then the Hausa man also needs to understand that this one that he has, he doesn't have the one that the Igbo man has and he needs it as well. And he also needs the one that the Yoruba man has. So when we come together, we will form a formidable entity that will be able to achieve a better end.
Yes.
Do you think that that is the case?
Well, I totally agree with him, because as for me, this protest, I don't see it going anywhere, because you removed the engine and you're just working with the body. The body can't work without the engine. And let's say this on camera, but the Igbos are the engine of whatever we do in this nation.
Wow. The Igbos are the engine. So in other words, when you're trying to move a car without the engine, you are expending energy, but you're not getting results. Because you just be pushing the vehicle instead of letting the engine be the driving force. You are using your human labor to achieve the driving force.
Not achieving anything.
Now, that doesn't mean that the tire is less important. The nuts, the bolts are not less important, because the engine's efficiency is relied on, if I should use the word, on the tire, the nuts being in this position for it to work. So when we say the engine, the Igbos are the engine, doesn't mean that they are more important than every part of the vehicle. But if you remove the engine from the vehicle, it's just a container, an empty body. But the engine is needed, like the brain power. But then the tires are as important as the engine. It's just that the engine brings the efficiency.
Oh. So would you now say that there is a tribe that is more important than the other?
No. No tribe is more important than the other. For example, an engine could be very, very sound, but the car needs 4 tires. If one tire is not there, the car can move properly.
So when you were talking, you said something about the other tribe asking for the Igbo man to
apologizing to the
Igbo man.
Yes.
Can you throw a little more light to that?
Okay. Apart from religious crisis, which we're not here to talk about, when it comes to tribal crisis, the Igbos have suffered loss more than any tribe in the country for just speaking up and for their progressive nature. That's all. The Igbos has never, for example, Let us go back to look at the word one Nigeria. What does one Nigeria mean? One Nigeria means a people coming together to achieve a common goals, integrating and uniting together, and finding their collective interest and working towards it. Now, the Igbos understand the needs for diversities and for balance and for exploration. So he sees, oh, we are into one country. We need each other to thrive. So Igbo man wakes up one morning, he goes down north, he goes down south, he goes down west, he establishes himself there. But what happens? There's a little economic or political crisis. The Igbo man is attacked for it. Why? Why? There has never been a time Igbos have risen up to attack any tribe in the country. Go and check your statistics. There's never been a time. Igbos are too busy to do that. They want to come and work with you. But people think that they are dominant because the Igbo man's nature is to bring progress. And I myself, I agree with that fact. Not because I'm an Igbo man, but because I understand what it means to progress. Progress, when it comes to progress, there is need for competition. In school, if I'm an 80 grade student and I'm a top class guy in the class, then I go to another school, then I find out that there's an 85 guy, 85 grade guy there. I'm no more an ace top guy. What do I do to become a top guy? I will strive to hit 90, 95. Now, instead of me going to kill the guy or remove him from the picture, I will work hard to outperform him. That's how the human being has limitless potentials and capacity. As long as you pay attention to it, you find your power and your strength and your ability to grow and expand. But because of identity crisis, inferiority complex, that is why we shrink ourselves back to hold someone down as he's moving forward. Because you are afraid that you cannot do it. So, give and take, right? They see the Igbo man as, oh, I don't think I can do that like he does that. So what do? Let's hold him down. But you don't even know how powerful you are if you look into your strength.
You just made a statement. You said something about identity crisis.
Yes.
I will come back to that.
All right.
I will come back to you to expound more on identity crisis. Do you think this present administration, from their body language and from the things that we have had, utterances we've had coming from some of those political holders in this present administration, do you think that this protest is going to cause any change whatsoever?
The protest would have gone a long way to solve a lot of things. But we have this issue, and that issue is not speaking in unison. One. Two, not having an agenda for the protest. I'll cite an example. We have a protest ongoing in UK, in Bangladesh. In UK, people are looting, likewise in Nigeria here, people are looting, a lot of things have been damaged. In Bangladesh, and likewise UK. In Bangladesh, they chased away their prime minister. The only problem we have here in Nigeria is we not being able to tell ourselves the gospel truth. This is what we want. Then I would want to say this. I'm not saying that the Igbos are more superior than every other tribe. It would be so unfair for me to say that. But I just want to cite an example using this ongoing protest. Where in the southeast is Igbo man protesting? Because Igbo man said it even prior before the election that this is how to go about this. But people left what they were supposed to be talking about. They were talking about ethnicity. They started talking about religion. They started saying a lot of things that don't matter. A lot of things that don't matter. And this is where we are today. Now, when you come to the body language of the elites, the political elites now, the ruling class, the chief security officer of Nigeria, and all of them, you found out that his broadcast on Sunday doesn't even address any of these things. Secondly, you find our, I'm sorry, the unfortunate Senate president making statements like, you people can go to the street and protest. will be eaten. And then you are here telling us that the Buhari government left you nothing. And your convoy is like 1,000 vehicles, and you're buying senators a jeep costs 160 million naira. And you're telling us you're busy. You are the president that is running the most speakers and the most how do I put it? Your governing class, your senators and whatever. You even had to bring in another what is it called? You brought in another establishment all in the name of is it animal whatever people that
Okay, another ministry.
another ministry. Are you helping? What are you doing? All of these you're saying that you people that you're just doing those things to the poor masses. The poor masses, those that are suffering for that money you're spending, are busy eating from the ground while you're busy
So
spending our
you're
monies
telling
on the
us you're
rest.
telling us to make sacrifices while you're busy eating.
While you're busy eating, that is what the present government is trying to tell the normal Nigerian person and all of that, which is not really fair from that
But
perspective.
that is the reason people, when they talk about gaslighting, that some persons are gaslighting, a particular people or the youths to go into the streets and protest. I think it is even the government who, by their actions, are gaslighting the people to go into the streets. And now that that people are taking to the streets to protest, some persons are now very silent. Because we knew that prior to now, we knew people who protested against the government during Jonathan's administration. And we know that a good number of them are in power right now. And we know that there are some people who, were at the forefront ensuring that that protest was a success. Today, because perhaps their brothers, their sisters, they themselves are within the corridors of power, protest is no longer is no longer is no longer good for Nigerians. Do you think that that mentality is part of the things that's making a good number of Nigerians to say we must go to protests?
Of course, you can't hit a child and ask the child not to cry, right? There's a high level of injustice in the country, different forms of injustice being meted on the people for no just cause. The people have seen so much in this country. They have seen a lot, but they've known that, oh, this is not supposed to be so. This is not supposed to be so, actually, because even the people themselves, they know now the what next that's going to come on them with all this injustice going on is to take away their voice completely. And the moment you take away the only thing they have, taking away their freedom, taking away their life, quality of life, the normal basic quality of life, you've taken it away from them. Even the freedom to even live as a normal human being is taken it away from them. They don't have basic amenities accessible, healthcare, educations, and all of those things. And you're clamping them down on them harder and harder every day. So they know the only thing they have now is their voice. If they don't speak, they will take their voice from them. And if they take their voice from them, it's as good as they are dead. You've taken their life from them. Because someone you've taken their voice from everything that he has, what's left is nothing. So the youths are now saying, men, we just have to talk about these things. We can't just keep quiet. But then, keeping quiet is not enough. What is required of you is there are many things that is needed to achieve a goal, which includes speaking up. And you can't leave out all those other things. Like, first of all, the injustice you're calling out the government on, every other thing that you are complaining about, the hardship, have you been a tool one way or the other to bring that to cause that? Have you been just yourself as a person? Have you, if you're a trader or a businessman or an employer, do you give your employees their what they call
Due benefits.
due benefits? You as a trader, do you inflate price? Do you create a proxy scarcity to inflate prices? Look for things to say that is the cause. Even as much as the government allowed them, people use it as an avenue. Now that reminds me of something. I told someone something. I said, you can't really even blame the people for being corrupt. I'm not saying that. I'm not encouraging corruption. We can't actually blame the people for being corrupt. You know why? I said they have looked. The governments are corrupt and acting like they have immunity over it. So the people will say, oh, is that the case? Okay, you guys are corrupt. We will help you finish the job. Now, you as a government, you're saying, oh, this thing is getting out of hand. Now you can't even cover your tracks. You can't even put the people in check. Now it's a chaotic situation. But the only solution to this, since the whole thing is falling back on the masses, what the masses need to do is to find back themselves on the right track. On the right track, that is where you can demand justice. If you're not on the right track, your justice demand is futile. And revert back to the root cause of the problem first, be on track, then you can demand for justice. Reconcile with your past, be on track, demand for justice, and then you get the results you're looking for.
We know that in a social environment where human beings, so long as you have human beings in an environment, once there is hardship, people tend to react in certain ways. And you cannot ask a man who is very hungry to stick to order. The stomach will control his actions when he gets to a certain stage, when he begins to get desperate. And that is natural with every human being. It doesn't matter how your moral upbringing is or your level of morality. It gets to a point where you will be forced to do things that ordinarily you wouldn't have done. Now, looking at the what is driving these protests, we know that hunger is at the forefront. And let's actually look at the dangerous side of this protest. In the north, I saw videos where some people are already raising Russian flags. Some people are calling for military takeover. What do you think that this can lead to if the government does not do something immediately? Because people are beginning to think in certain directions, probably because the hardship is becoming unbearable. And the attitude of the government is nothing to write home about. It's not encouraging anybody in the country. So what do you think government should do, and how do we get ourselves out of this danger zone?
Okay. With the body language of those ruling now, if you don't take time, this will no longer end as a protest. It will turn to a revolution. And unfortunately, it will start from the north. Let's tell ourselves the truth. You would have addressed the nation. By address, I meant looking for one key thing that you are going to do to calm the situation. Just about yesterday and day before yesterday's news, the NCC okayed a hike on calls. The same yesterday, they came out again to denounce the same news, to debunk it that is not from them. What in God's name is this? This is I'm sorry, but as far as I'm concerned, this is the best government ever. Let me not use the word worse. The reason why I said so is, how can things be happening? You under 1 week, the unfortunate Senate president passed a bill of removing the national anthem we all grew up with. Of course, the old one, which is the new one now, can't even enter here. I can't start going back to start learning that national anthem. Under the same 1 week, you signed a lot of bills. We're still debating if we are going to buy a private jet, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's a private jet for our Tinubu. And people are saying, what are you trying to achieve? You are not making any statement that could cushion the effect of noun protests, the ongoing protests. You are busy spending extravagantly. The trepidation is coming. You see the end point of this whole thing. It's coming. We are just seeing it as a protest. If I were to advise any Nigerian, stock up your homes. Things are just getting started. The only thing I fear for is the looting and the maiming of people, leaving those that are supposed to be. As we speak, our legislatives are no longer in the country. Many of them are overseas, enjoying with their families. So if and only if, I thought when they said they had this emergency meeting that they were supposedly going to address what is happening in the nation. But nobody's talking about it. And then the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, imagine a statement you were supposed to read on Sunday be made available to the public even before the Sunday you were supposed to read it. Somebody was busy reading it as he was making the speech. The person was busy reading it out through his phone. What exactly are we not doing? I'm sorry, this is the best government I've seen. And it's very good to me because it's very good to me because we, the Igbos, we are already good with suffering and smiling because we are very much industrious.
Does that explain why the Igbos are not protesting?
Yes, because when we tried to, during the election, you saw the miming that went on in Lagos, some part of Lagos State, that of Port Harcourt, whom now is a minister. Even while seeing all those things on the media, he still made him a minister because he knows that without having the federal might or the federal power, he wouldn't be able to say or do what he's doing right now in the state. He just stepped down from. So unless we have a common voice.
Let's even look at Lagos. In Lagos, when the protesters were preparing for their protests, all of a sudden there was a publication, that Oro, their spiritual festival or something, was going to start. The Oro festival was going to start from 1st August, being the first day that the protest was scheduled to start, to I think somewhere around 10th that the protest was also scheduled to end. Sorry, yeah. In other words, they brought out that program just to counter, So how do you look at, these things playing out using the tradition of the land, of the people, to satisfy their political interest? What do you think about it? How will it solve our problem?
I think this whole thing is all a joke. The people even know it's all a joke. Like I said before earlier, Nigerians have seen a lot. Nigerians have seen so much in a short time. Nigerians have seen everything. Nigerians can predict a politician. That's how Nigerians has gotten. The whole format, they know it all.
So why do we still fall into it during the election period?
Now, I wouldn't entirely say you can't always fall into it all the time, because there will always be some countermeasures, especially when it begins to affect your basic need. Right? If, for example, Africans, I would say Nigerians, Africans, they play a lot. They take a lot of things for granted until it hits them. We're like, oh, okay, this is no more a joke. Like you're talking about hunger. So a hungry man is controlled by his need to fuel his hunger. And you said, seeing people raise the flag. Now, there have been worse cases of hardship in the world, but people still achieved a better world for themselves. That thing was only possible through discipline and character. Because your true color comes out when you're actually very hungry. Just like when you're drunk. When you're separated from your environment consciously, your will to be conscious, when you're severed from it by another influence or external substance, it shows your real self. Now, someone wouldn't tell me that because I am hungry, I am looting a man's shop who is also hungry. Right? What do we do when we are hungry? What do we do? How do we hold ourselves together to find the solution to our problem? Why will you be hungry and attack someone else who is also in the same shoes as you are?
Survival.
Now, all right, survival, who put you in that situation? Why in the first place did you hit the street? Oh, okay, you were waiting for a protest as an avenue to loot another person and say survival. Survival is to go straight to the cause of the problem and attack it once. Now, people bringing up their flags, the Russian flag. I want to say something to it before I bring this thing you're talking about, the Oro Festival. I said Nigerians have seen too much in a lifetime. People bring up flag because the Nigerian government have failed incompletely. So they wouldn't mind if another government takes over. They wouldn't mind if another government takes over as long as it brings them out of this mess that they are in. Because, for example, if we do a reflection back before we got our independence, Britain, we want to be independent, The economy wasn't this bad when we were colonized. As a matter of fact, that's when you had the best healthcare, best education, best standard of living than we have now, than we have your independence. So that brings us to ask our question, are we capable to rule ourselves as a people, as Africans? So them has gotten to they've hit the wall to say, can't lead ourselves. These people leading us cannot lead ourselves. We protesting can't even lead ourselves. Please come and lead us.
So by implication, raising that flag is
He's telling you, please
a way
come.
of calling for them to come and start controlling us and start leading us.
Exactly. Which country?
Don't you think it's an intervention they were asking for, not just to bring the Russians to come and start? Is it to recolonize us or something? I don't know, but I think it's is a gesture for intervention. It's a symbol of, please, we are in dire need of intervention. Please, can you help us out of this mess? Not by way of coming to form leadership, but by way of doing something about our politicians who are actually the leaders who are actually doing this to us. Some amongst those protesters were actually calling for military takeover, which is a very dangerous thing because we know what it means for the implications of military governments. And so I think what these people are actually trying to point out is, please, we need to go back to military regime.
Can I say something? Imagine the US as a country protesting. US as a country, something happens all of a sudden, the US as a country now they are protesting and they raise a Nigerian flag.
But US have done it. Remember this recent times, just I think about last week, they were protesting. There were some protests in America where they were raising, I think, is it Palestinian flag or something?
I want to bring your mind to something. There's a picture I want to paint. Imagine the US as a country having a crisis like that is Nigeria, that of Nigeria right now.
Okay.
And you see the US citizens raising the Nigerian flag.
Okay, I understand.
It can never be possible. They know you don't have the capacity to solve their problem. They're raising a Russian flag because they somehow have lost hope in this government and they see these people as people who can solve their problem.
What do you think about that?
Which is a sad reality. Very sad one.
Well, what can I say about it? Well, those that are raising the flags are simply saying that we know, you and I, we all here know that this government has failed us, not just us, but the youths. They made us to understand that we are the leaders of tomorrow. But you can check the whole cabinet, you can count how many are youth. A bunch of old men that don't even have anything to offer. So for one, that for those that are raising that flag, it means we have lost hope in this government and we would want you to intervene. So because they know that there is capacity in that, that man is the only president that I know that has got guts, for crying out loud.
Putin.
Putin is the only president I know that have got guts.
So we are going to go back to identity crisis. You said something about identity
Yes.
crisis. So we are going to look at it as a solution to
Yeah.
the problem of Nigeria.
Yes.
So let's listen to that.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I say the protest won't work, because people need for you to find your identity, you must first find yourself, discover yourself. And to discover yourself, you must have to go back to your roots. Now, when I come to roots, I'm not talking about the religious roots. I'm talking about the sociocultural roots, where your identity, your makeup is ingrained. Now, ever since the Westerners colonized us and probably gave us their pseudo um, independence, Africans have suffered identity crisis to discover themselves because now they are stuck in between taking the way of life of the West and having to be who they are. Now, that is why the Africans struggle, even religiously, to even have a direct communication or connection with God, because they're approaching a God through the white man's way in a black man's skin. A black man is wired differently, biologically and culturally. The way we dress, even our weather.
So how will he help us in Nigeria?
Now, in Nigeria as a place, we are Africans first, then before we became Nigerians. And what makes us Africans? Okay, in Nigeria now, where do we belong in the African geographical setting? Who are we? Okay, I'm a Yoruba man. Where am I from? From a Yoruba. Now that's my root. That's where my strength lies. Because when you go back to your roots, you find out your ancestors, your fathers, what they did exceptionally. God-given ability that they did exceptionally. The Hausa man doesn't have it. Go back to the Hausa man's roots. What does he do exceptionally? Stop speaking English for a while. Speak your local language. Find yourself. What makes me me? Now, the Igbo man does the same thing. Then we come out and say, oh, right, this is where my strength is as an Igbo man. Okay. I can sprint, for example. I can sprint. I can sing. I can dance. Okay. What do we need your sprinting for? Okay, while we are dancing, while you are singing, sprint and climb the tree, get us the fruit so we can eat.
I think some of these things that you're talking about is already in Nigerian society as it is today. It's just that the people have failed to recognize it. For instance, an Igbo man knows trading as his strength.
Yes.
We know that in Nigeria, trading is something that Igbo men do perfectly. Production is also something that Igbo man does very well. We know that in Nigeria, Hausa people can do well in the agricultural sector. Even though I cannot categorically say this is how well they can do in that field. But you and I know that most of the things that we eat come from the north. So is it that we are not recognizing those, or we are not doing well in trying to identify these strengths and take advantage of it?
I wouldn't say that they naturally are not looking to that direction. I would say that it has been a program on the minds of, actually, let me be a little bit more controversial. There's been a program on the minds of the West and the North against the Igbos. So it's a thing of watch out for the Igbo man, the Igbo man, the Igbo man, the Igbo man, the Igbo man. So you are looking for the Igbo man to attack him while you are forgetting yourself. what he can do.
Mm.
The Igbo man is looking for his strengths. You are attacking his ability. Why are you neglecting your own strength? That is the problem.
And so that is why we have a chaotic society.
Yeah, now it now looks like the Igbo people are more stronger and they are more dominant in their approach. They appear to look more dominant because you are looking at him, then he's working on his strength. You are denying him an enabling environment. He's figuring out ways to navigate to that stifling environment, giving him more strength.
Yeah.
So the harder you try to clamp on down on an Igbo man, he's getting stronger. You're getting weaker. So now your weakness becomes so obvious that you think the Igbo man is the cause of your weakness.
There is point in what you're saying. What do you think about that?
Well, I totally agree with what he's saying, because that is the bone of contention now. Everybody seems to be attacking the Igbos, just like what Shehu Sani is saying. You read his tweet on the, is it on X or on Instagram, yeah? Likewise, that of the former head of state, one of the former head of states, let me not mention names, when he said that whilst all these things are happening, the Igbos kept quiet. Of all the, Shehu Sani said, of all the things, of all the uproars, only the Southeast remains calm, that there is more to it than they already know. Why are you particularly concerned about the Igbos? Are we far different from others? Since you own, some are answering the food basket of the nation, Benue State and the rest of them. Why can't you capitalize on what you know how best to do? Leave the Igbos to themselves. They said they don't want to join the protest, and you're here hitting on them. But you are leaving your capacity, just like he has said. You have your own capacity that God gave to you. We have ours. And then you're leaving yours, attacking those that are not even close to your problem. Why not work in unison? Let's work together to make the country work. Outside that, we'll just keep getting it wrong from time immemorial. We've been getting it wrong, and we're still getting it wrong now. I wonder what our next generation will be.
Well, it's been a wonderful moment being with these wonderful people. Today, I've learned so much. And then talking about solution to Nigerian problems. We know that from what you guys have just said today, I came to understand that Nigeria can be solved. The challenges can be solved if only we can identify our individual strengths, talking about these three major tribes, our individual selves, and how we can harness those strengths, bring them together, create a much more formidable force for a better achievement as a Nigerian project. I think on this note, we'll bring this program to an end. Thank you very much for participating for today. Thank you, Mr. Ariel.
Thank you.
It's been a wonderful time. We'll be having more of this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please go to the comment section, like, share, and comment.
Subscribe.
We are going to be hitting you back and back with much more interesting news and interesting episodes to come. Stay tuned.